Hi, Dan Malott again with Valley In-Flight Training for a few more tips today. Today we'd like to talk to you about the similarities of managing or owning a business and managing, owning, and flying an aircraft. So again, what we have as a business owner or a business leader and what I have as a pilot or an aircraft manager. And we want to talk to you about three things, three skills, two of which are great. One of them you have to use caution for. What are they? They're passion, prioritization, and determination. Passion, prioritization, and determination. Let's talk about each one of those individually. The first one is passion. You didn't start a business or manage a business or grow in a business or lead a business because you're dull and you don't care. You do it because you love it. You have a passion for it. You develop something, you innovate, you have such a passion for your business. And that's a great thing to carry over into an aircraft. And so here's two tips to take that passion in your business and take it over to an aircraft. And they are a passion for training or learning, and a passion for a type club and getting involved. A passion for training or learning, and a passion for getting involved in a type club. Each of those has been identified by our industry leaders, especially the NTSB and FAA and other industry groups, as directly contributing to safety. So let's talk about a passion for training or a passion for learning. I was doing my own flight review about a month ago, and the flight instructor, it was in a 172, looked over at me and said, "When was the last time you flew a standard VFR pattern?" It was a great question. It made me think. And I actually remembered because this summer I was flying a Cessna 414 on a family trip from Sheboygan, Wisconsin up to Green Bay. And we were taking 3 dads and 3 sons. It was a great father-son trip. We went up to Green Bay and had lunch. It was only about a 13-minute flight, so we didn't file. I just went VFR. And as I descended into Green Bay, it occurred to me that I hadn't thought about flying VFR in probably years. All of my flights are IFR, and they're almost always cross-country. And that's probably what a lot of you do too. So as I'm coming into Green Bay, they said, report a 5-mile final or something along those lines. And it occurred to me, well, the pattern, how do I enter the pattern? What's the pattern altitude? What direction is the pattern? All of those things that I hadn't thought about because it had been so long since I flew VFR. Why is that important? Because it's important to think about what you fly normally. How do you fly? Are you like me where you file IFR every single time? And almost every single time it's either the visual, the ILS, or an RNAV approach straight in? If that's what you're doing all the time, we really need to look into our training. What are we doing on training? How often do we train? A good pilot should be training every 6 months. Yes, once a year is a minimum, and the FAA has us down for every 2 years for a flight review. But really, every 6 months, we should be doing some training event. One of the greatest programs you can do is participate in the FAA Wings program. Go to FAAsafety.gov and take a look at the Wings program. It encourages you to train all the time. And if you have a passion for it and you want to learn more, that can really increase your skills as a pilot. So think about this. The next time that you're going to go train, whether it's for a flight review, an instrument proficiency check, or any training event, talk to your instructor about doing something that you haven't done in a while. Something that's going to really improve your skills. Something that'll make you a safer pilot. A passion for training. Certainly I'd love it if you called us, so you can visit our website at flyvift.com. I'd love it, but to be honest, there's a lot of great flight instructors out there that would love to help you train in your aircraft that are close by. Maybe they're a friend, maybe they're a business colleague, but go up in an aircraft and train on something you haven't done in a while to increase your proficiency. So passion for training and learning. The other one is passion for getting involved in a type club or a type organization. There's so many of them out there. Popular ones such as the Cirrus Owners and Pilots Association, or COPA, or the Twin Cessna Flyers organization. All of those organizations are a great way to get involved. Yes, there's certainly there's a lot of fun and communal aspects of it where you get together. The COPA migration that they have every year, it's a great way for camaraderie and meeting friends and getting to know people. However, our industry has also seen a trend that when you get involved more, you learn more. And of course, that's tied to learning, but you learn about the airplane, you learn about the systems, you learn what are the most recent accidents in that type or category of airplane. By learning those things, that's going to make you a better pilot. You know, you may read about a column, a certain engine issue that's happening on the aircraft. And if you learn about it and you follow it and you read the magazines or the online publications or you go to the seminars, whatever that organization has, it's going to make you a safer pilot. So I highly encourage you to get involved, and if certainly nothing else, for the fun of it, to meet more people that are like you and have airplanes like you. So that's passion. Transfer that passion you have for your business to a passion for training and getting involved in your organization. The next one then is prioritization. Every business owner is able to prioritize, and most business owners or business leaders, in a given day, you have far too many things to do to actually get them all done. And so a good business owner obviously knows, hey, I'm simply not going to get everything done today that I'd like to. So you have to know what has to be done today. And almost all business owners have this skill. We're able to prioritize and make decisions based on what's a priority today. I'd like you to take that same thing when you're flying an aircraft. There are so many things occurring in an aircraft at all times that we may not be able to get everything that we want to done, especially in a critical period of time. So what I want you to do in terms of prioritization is I want you to remember the critical phases of flight. And that's the key. What are the critical phases of flight? In our opinion, it's anything from when you're going to start those engines, especially a turbine power plant, all the way up to cruise flight. Now, if it's not a turbine or you're not climbing up into the flight levels, there could be some changes there. Some air carriers, maybe it's up to 18,000 feet. However, there are critical periods from the time you're about to start an engine all the way up to and including cruise flight that we want to minimize our distractions. Those are critical phases of flight in the climb. And then on the flip side, when you're coming down, when you're descending your aircraft, and maybe you want to pick an altitude, maybe it's 10,000 feet, or if you're flying in a non-pressurized, non-turbocharged aircraft like a Cirrus SR-22 and you're below 10,000 feet at all times, maybe you pick a certain altitude that once you descend below that altitude, that's when your brain has to switch to prioritization. And that means focusing only on that part of the flight. That might be descent, arrival, and approach to landing, and then landing, and then of course the taxi. We have far too many things that even occur on the ground. Runway incursions, engine problems. There's all kinds of things that can happen because our mind and our focus is not on what we should be doing, and that's managing our cockpit, managing the flight. And we're distracted. Often that happens with passengers. You may have a passenger or a child that's riding up with you in the cockpit in the right seat, and that's fun, and we love to share aviation. But it's important to have those conversations with your passengers about not interrupting you, maintaining that. There was a great story, an article many years ago that I read, and you've probably heard there's two types of pilots: those who have landed gear up and those who will land gear up. And this pilot said, well, now there's three: those who will land gear up again. And it was a great read, and I was very happy that he was willing to share his story. And he talked about how he had two gear-up landings, and they almost always occur because of some distraction in the cockpit. So let's go back. Let's prioritize. We want to prioritize. At all those critical phases of flight, we need to prioritize what we're doing and how we're managing our cockpit. Prioritization, it's key. The last thing I want to talk about is determination. Almost all business owners have this skill, this trait that we see as determination or drive. You're determined. You know your product is the greatest. Your business model is the greatest. You've innovated, and now you want to get it to the world. And so you have this determination. You're willing to overcome all obstacles. And almost all business owners know it. Now, that can be a great skill to have in almost everything you do in life and in aviation. But there's one problem, and you probably already know what it is, and maybe you've already seen it, and that's the determination of getting there. And so we have to use some caution here. What I want you to do is to take that determination and add in something that's really important, and that is safely getting there. I want to add this term in safety. Now, you've heard of safety. We talk about safety. We have it in every meeting we go to, every seminar you may have been at, even what I mentioned earlier, FAA, Safety is a great word, but you need to think about it every time you fly. How do I get there safely? Now, I'm not implying that we're not going to work super hard and try really hard to get there. As a driven person, as somebody who's determined, a pilot, it's okay to say, how can I work hard to get there? Maybe the night before you check the weather and you realize that there's a front moving in, let's just say at noon. And so you were going to leave at noon, but now you saw this, so you get up early and maybe you do an early morning departure. There's lots of ways that we can work hard to safely arrive somewhere, but we have to always include that word. How do I safely get there? So if I'm looking at flying from Atlanta down to southern Florida, it's a great place, and especially in the winter, maybe I need to get even further south than Atlanta. And I'm looking in, and sure enough, we've got the afternoon buildups in Florida. And if you see that, you want to use caution about your determination. If you just have a determination to get there, and you're flying a turbine aircraft, such as a Pilatus, a King Air, a Meridian, something like that, you may be up in the flight levels in the most dangerous part, trying to weave through cells. That is not safe. That's not what we want to be doing. there's maybe a better way, maybe a reroute, maybe checking the weather the night before, maybe delaying, finding different ways, alternative ways to safely get to my destination. And I want to add one more thing when it comes to this. And that is, business owners are not afraid to make decisions. I found that business owners are not afraid to try something. And that's okay, most of the time, as long as we're thinking about safety. You know, maybe we're trying a new route, we're trying a different altitude, something like that. But I've also known that business owners sometimes make decisions, but they recognize it wasn't the best decision. And they're always willing to pull the plug, to turn or change direction or pull the plug altogether. So what I want to really encourage you to do is to take that skill as well into aviation. If you recognize that something just isn't right, don't be afraid to pull the plug on a flight. Just cancel the flight. Far too often when we're driven people, we always want to succeed, and then we see this weather and we see things getting in our way. We're going to meet with a new client, we're going to do something, I have to get to Naples. I have to get to Marco Island. I have to get to Miami. You're flying to Southern Florida, but business owners know, they have a sense that something's not right and they can pull the plug and change directions. Don't be afraid to cancel a flight, especially after you've already made a go decision. There's been far too many accidents where a pilot started or initiated a flight based on certain information, and as the flight progressed, things deteriorated. I'm sure you've had a flight in the past that you recognize that. Things are getting worse, things are getting worse. And the more you get into a flight, every study has proven that you want to complete it even more. It's the same thing in business. The more you get into a project, the more you really want it to succeed. The more money you put at it, the more you want it to succeed. But a good business owner who's been around for a while knows that you can't be afraid to just pull the plug and cancel. And the same thing, I want you to do the same thing when you're flying. If you sense that something isn't right, that this is not what you were expecting, unforecasted weather, unforecasted winds, a change in cruise performance and your fuel burns aren't adding up, don't be afraid to get on the ground. There's an old saying, and we always say it, but I'd rather be on the ground wishing I was flying than flying wishing I was on the ground. Don't ever be afraid to pull the plug or change course and divert somewhere else that's safer. So, determination. Be careful how that comes in. Have a determination for safely arriving at your destination. So we talked about passion for training and learning, passion for type clubs, prioritization, especially when it comes to critical phases of flight, which we call any ground operations, takeoff, climb, and then descent approach into landing. Those are all critical phases of flight. And then determination. I'm Dan, and hope you got a few things out of this. Please visit our website at www.flyvift.com, and we'll see you next time.